4 hours really concerns Manchester United midfielder Paul Pogba, and stories suggesting he could soon be on his way back to his native France. The 28-year-old is entering the final year of his contract at Old Trafford. Reports suggest his agent Mino Raiola, who else has spoken to Paris Saint-Germain over personal terms, and the French champions reportedly preparing a £50 million bid. I mean, I've searched this story up and down today. I've seen figures from 43 million to 60 million, which, Scott Minto, I think changes the complexion of things for both of us. If it's at the top end, it's a very different conversation to if it's at the low end of the figures. So we'll say roughly in the middle, around £50 million for Paul Pogba with a year left on his deal. I want to know from the Manchester United fans, how would you feel about Pogba leaving Old Trafford? Let us know. 08717 223344. Text 81089. Tweet at TalkSport KO. If you were a United fan, Scott,
I wouldn't be.
I'll let you know how I feel in a second. But how would you be feeling about the idea that Paul Pogba could be leaving?
No, I mean, when I first heard, between 43 and 60 million, I'm thinking 43 wouldn't take, 60 million I would take. But the more I think about it, and the more we're talking about Ollie and this last year, if he doesn't do something big this coming season, I'm thinking he's got to keep him. And he's still got a year left. He's been wanting to go for the last 2 or 3 seasons. So, if you say, well, he wants to go, well, you say, well, you got one more season here. Then you go in the free, and I'm sure his agent, who would be getting sort of profits from 20 to 40 million, suddenly goes from 40 to 60 million, wouldn't necessarily be unhappy to wait another year. Look, I look at Paul Pogba and I think to myself, this is a world-class talent. And why has it not been able to... why have we not seen the best of him on a consistent basis? When we saw it with Juventus and we've seen it with France, he was absolutely superb. He'd been my player of the tournament. How good was he in terms of just... really just, the passing, the scoring, the creating, absolutely everything. So... if I was Ollie, who, to be fair to him, he is a good man manager, I'd look him in the eye and say, look, just give me one more year. Where do you want to play? I personally would play him in that one of the two, in a 4-2-3-1. I think anyway, teams are much better with the wide players when they've got pace. I wouldn't be afraid if I was a fullback to be playing against Pogba because he'd be coming inside all the time. But play him where he played for France. Play him where he wants to play, alongside a McTominay, I thought came on a lot last season and was United's best player in the Europa League final. Put him there, have pace out wide, get a striker, get Harry Kane in as well. And I'm telling you, United could be winning the title next season. But there's a lot of ifs and buts there.
Has it worked for Paul Pogba at Manchester United? It was a world record £89 million fee back in 2016. I think that's why a lot of Manchester United fans might say, look, let's move on, because it's never materialised. Everything that we see with France, we haven't really seen it. United had one very good season in there, I think, but generally speaking, it's been underwhelming.
I wouldn't blame a United fan if they came on and say, get rid of him now, because they haven't seen it. It's been too many ups and downs, and too many downs more than ups, to be honest with you. But I just think in terms of what he's capable of for this final season, it looks like he's been sort of shunted around midfield. He's sometimes been out wide. He's sometimes played in a 2. It looks like he's felt a bit under pressure playing in that situation. Look, you play here. We're going to give you 10, 15 games. You're our man. Get on the ball in the way you did for France. We've got pace out wide. We've got movement up front. Honestly, I'm telling you now, United, if they get Harry Kane in and kept Pogba and got a centre-back as well, they'd be right up there challenging City and Chelsea for the Premier League.
How would you feel about selling Paul Pogba? 08717 223344. Dave is a Manchester United fan. Good evening, Dave. How would you feel?
Dave, you okay, mate?
I'm very well.
Good. I'd probably let him go, to be honest. I was just listening to the other gentleman talking. Don't tend to agree with a bit of what he said. Tactically, he's a bit indisciplined to play in a 2, and I think that's where the biggest problem is, and that's where Ole has the biggest problem, is that he's not going to take Bruno's place. His figures and his stats prove that Bruno is on a different level. So he can't really play as the 10. So in the 2, he's a bit indisciplined, and I think he tends to go missing in various games. And I think he's a brilliant player, don't get me wrong. He has brilliant moments. He's got a brilliant eye for a pass. He's a great footballer. I just feel that where United are at, he has been shunted out to different places, as the gentleman said, because he's lacking that discipline in the 2. And for me, yes, he's brilliant for France, but for France, he's got Kante next to him. And I think if they had a Kante, definitely he'd be in a 2. I just feel that with McTominay and Fred there, They don't really get the best out of Pogba, and Pogba doesn't really have the discipline to play in the two. So I'd sell him, and I'd get probably a Neves or a Saúl or one of those type players, probably a number 6, a proper number 6 to complement the midfield and allow Bruno to do his thing as a 10. That's just my opinion. 50 million, and that also Raiola comes with a bit of a circus. You don't really want that. I mean, let's not forget in December, he gave that big interview before the Champions League match and we ended up getting knocked out. So I would let him go.
Yeah, I personally don't disagree with what you're saying. And I said about if a United fan came on and we've not seen enough, it's been thrown at him, he's been ill-disciplined. The one point I do agree with you there is if he had a Kante alongside him. I mean, if we had a Kante alongside us, Hugh, I think we could perhaps still play. I don't know. But like, he does the job of 2 men. But I honestly think McTominay made a bit of a breakthrough season last season. And that game in the Europa League final as well, I thought he was absolutely superb. He would have gained so much confidence, you know, coming into this coming season. And you just ask Paul Pogba to, yes, it's been too long, you know, 3rd, 4th season of, look, we're waiting for you to step up still. But again, off the back of him knowing he was one of the best players in that tournament, even though France didn't win, I genuinely think if Ollie plays it well, because he is a very good man manager, he can get the best out of him. But look, £60 million for any player with 1 year left in his contract is not to be sniffed at.
No, yeah, you definitely. I'd definitely let him go. If the offer right offer came in, I'd let him go, replace him. And as you said, if you had a Kante, it's a different scenario. I think what Ole's problem is McTominay and Fred, their weaknesses are the same, so they have to play together. Individually, if they had to play him with Pogba, they don't seem to complement each other enough. So, yeah, I totally agree with you guys.
Dave, brilliant call. Thanks for letting us know your thoughts as a Manchester United fan on kickoff this evening. Scott, he raises a good point, Dave, there. Scott McTominay and Fred, part of the midfield, they get a lot of games, particularly big games. But you've got Bruno Fernandes, who's excellent. But then there's Nemanja Matic, Jesse Lingard's in the squad at the moment, Andreas Pereira. To add to Pogba, there's a couple of others in the midfield area. But you're looking at the other big clubs in the Premier League. And this might be the area that actually is in many ways weakest for Manchester United, because there's a few stars there, but they just haven't clicked. And other teams' central midfield areas, you know, they're at full pelt. I mean, they're sensational. So if you're going to compete with the Manchester City, if you do sell Pogba, you're actually, you know, whatever chance you've got is now gone, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, and there's Van der Beek there as well, of course. Exactly, you know, yeah. I think they have fantastic attacking talent. As I say, I would always want, and as a former fullback, I always hated pace out wide. So let's take Pogba out of the wide situation, even though he did well for Juventus, coming in off that left. It's clearly not really happening for him, United. I just think it's a question of saying, look, how much do you want this? And I'm sure this conversation has been had before. But I think if McTominay can protect that sort of holding midfield in the way that I think actually, as I say, I think it was a breakthrough season for him last season. That game, you cannot understand how much confidence in the biggest game that he would have ever played in, he was the best player on the pitch, how much confidence he can bring forward. So with Pogba's confidence as well, off the back of, despite not winning the tournament and France being favourites, him being one of the best players, I genuinely would put him there alongside McTominay and say, right, grab, you know, get the scruff of the game, actually tell yourself you can get hold of this if things aren't going well. That's the problem that's not really happened. But for his country, I've seen him do that. He's capable of it. He's just got to do it on a consistent basis. Just a quick one. Ruben Neves of Wolves, as Dave mentioned, linked with Manchester United, £35 million move. Who would you rather have? Well, I'd rather have Paul Pogba all day long. But my question was around whether Ruben Neves could play for Manchester United, whether there's a place for him in that midfield. He wasn't a regular all the time last season, was he, for his club? I mean, it does seem a bit of a strange one. Is he technically brilliant? Yes, he is. But at the very top, at the very best, in the very big games, you know, against the Cities, against the Chelseas, against the Liverpools, the Champions League as well, is he capable of, you know, if you're talking about bringing someone like him in and letting Pogba go, does that really make sense? To me, it doesn't. And again, I go back to, this is Ollie's last season. If he doesn't have a fantastic season, he's got to do what's right for him as much as he's been doing what's right for the club. Ever since he's come in, he's got to realise where he is. This is his last season. He's got to have his best players in their best positions. I still feel they need a striker. Cavani was absolutely superb when he came in. Cannot rely on him
week in, week out in the Premier League and Champions League as well. Can you rely on Rashford as a number 9, Greenwood as a number 9? I don't think so. They need to splash the cash, and United are a big enough club to say, you know what, we're overpaying here, but we're going to get someone like Harry Kane or maybe even a Haaland as well.
Well, it looks like Arsenal are one of the clubs splashing the cash this summer. Up next, we'll ask if James Maddison could be going to the Emirates Stadium. Stay with us.
Kick-off with Hugh Wozencroft. Tuesday to Thursday night, 7 till 10. On AM, on DAB, via the TalkSport app and on your smart speaker. TalkSport.